Have you ever wondered why the rich get richer and others don't? Could it be that a small percentage of the population seek out others to find, study, and execute on legal loopholes that exist within our financial life and make it easier for them to prosper? The answer is a resounding yes. This is the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. John has spent a lifetime researching and mastering the financial loopholes that he believes should be available to everyone. Join us as we explore different strategies that help you get farther faster towards building and enjoying a prosperous retirement.
Hello and welcome to the Secrets of the Wealthy with John Mintz. John, what's going on?
Well, let's see how I tell this story. Well, here's the best way to say it. I think owning a home is kind of like being invested in the markets.
Amen.
You know, everything is just going really, really good. And then you wake up one day and it's not going so good. So I woke up, it is about a little after 11 a.m. on June the 12th here as we're doing the show. And I woke up this morning a little after 6 a.m. to a puddle in my living room.
Oh no.
Yeah. So of course I think we used every towel in the house, but I think we may be saving our wood floors. I'm hoping we did, but you know, you just never know what's going to happen owning a home, right? I think there's a reason why they call it a money pit, but anyway, that was our fun early morning this morning. So yeah, there you go.
So to the audience, John and I, when we get on, before we hit the record button, we chit chat and we talk about stuff. He did not say a word. He did not say a word about this puddle. So you didn't order the swimming pool, and yet you got one.
Yeah,
oh my
didn't need a second one. No.
Oh yeah, right. Seriously. Oh my Lord, I'm so sorry to hear that. I cringe because I'm smiling when I'm saying I'm sorry, and so I feel guilty now. But I've been there. I've been there, and it's just I'm so sorry.
No, it happens. You just got to roll with it and keep moving on.
And so there's got to be a life lesson, like just always have plenty of towels ready for whatever happens, right?
And fans.
Could be, yeah.
Towels and fans.
Towels and fans. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, Thank you for still doing the podcast with me. I mean, this is, you're a trooper, man. I mean, you could have just called it a day, said, let's throw some towels down and go back to bed.
Yeah, well, though, this show must go on, as they say.
All right. Well, let's start into the market update. For those that are just joining us, John does a market update. Every podcast is a little bit of a blip, a little bit of information. And so far, the housing values are interesting. They're kind of fluctuating with the water on the floor, but we'll find out later on that.
Yeah.
What else you got for us today?
Well, the last podcast, which we recorded, I don't know, early to mid-May sometime, we had mentioned that markets were starting to show a little strength, and we were hopeful that would continue, and it has. But this is just my opinion. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball on my desk, but I think what might be going on is a couple of things. But I think the markets are pricing in positively, of course, the expectation that the Fed is maybe done raising rates, at least for a bit, and they're going to push pause on that. We'll find out about that here in the next week or so as to whether or not they decide to take a break and pause. I don't think we're going to see rates come down anytime soon. Another key indicator of this, the CPI inflation numbers come out this week, and the markets always tend to react to that one way or the other. So we'll see what happens there. But I do want to caution everyone, though, because I know there's some euphoria out there right now with them moving forward. And, the bear markets of 2000 and 2008, both of which were give or take 50% drops, right? From peak to trough, which we got nowhere close to that yet on this one. But both of those saw rallies of 20% or more, but it wasn't the end of the bear. It's very, very common for that to happen. And of course, I don't wish for that to happen, but history has a way of repeating itself. So I just caution people. For example, many of the S&P 500 stocks are still firmly in a downward trend. And that is also a telltale sign of a bear market, right? And so the recommendation would that, be cautious, and most importantly, have a balanced portfolio, right? Have a balanced portfolio, especially if you're approaching retirement or you're in retirement. And so that's really what this show is all about today, Eric, is what does a balanced retirement look like? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today.
All right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you brought up the S&P 500 and you said a lot of them are still down. The S&P 500 has come up, but what I heard just this last week is that out of the 500 stocks that are in there, the ones that have pulled the S&P up are only like 7 of them, like 7 tech stocks, right?
Yeah, well, here, three companies. I used to say 5 companies represent 20% of the S&P 500. Okay. So another way to say that is I used to say 1% represented 25% of what is in the value of the S&P 500. Now it's not 5, it's 3 and 25.
Oh my gosh.
So, yes. So it's the top heavy would be an understatement. And so if those 3 or 4 or 5, yes, start to run up, it's going to move the needle because of their sheer size. But if they start running down, it's going to do the exact same thing.
Got it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. All right. So I love the, balanced retirement. I'm curious what you mean by balanced. What does that mean to you?
Well, we hear it in everything that we do, right? And balance in what you eat, balance in terms of your priorities, and balance in life, right? And it sure does play a part too in investing. And so I'm going to cover what I believe are 3 key buckets, if you will, to having a balanced retirement or balanced portfolio. And again, we're preaching to the baby boomers, the retirees or pre-retirees here, right? So Eric, I have a question for you. So if you were 65 and you won the lottery and you had enough money to live out your life and the lifestyle that you would want and cover any needs that may come up and leave enough that you would be happy with to leave behind, would you keep working?
Oh man, that's a great question. It depends on what I'm doing at that time, right? I mean, and I think that a lot of people think about that. If you really enjoy what you do and you could do it in such a way, and I'm going to go back to the word balanced, if I could do it in such a way that I had plenty of balance in my life, in other words, I probably would not want to work full time, but I would certainly like to work part time and do hobby work part time, so that I could do something that I enjoyed or wanted to try something new and then had plenty of time for my family. I think that would be my answer, but I don't think I'd be working full time, John.
And I think that's the answer that most people would probably give. Yeah, if I can do something I love, I do it a little, but I'm not going to do it so much it takes away from me spending time with the ones I love, right? And so here's the second part of that question. Would you put all of your money in risky investments or investments at risk?
I don't think so.
No, it's just logical.
No,
it's just logical, right? And that's what the first piece of the balance is. The first bucket, if you will, of the 3 buckets is balance and market risk. And so, that's we talk a lot about market risk and being balanced and how much should we have in the markets? How much should we not have in the markets? But, if you wouldn't do that from an overnight success like winning the lottery, then why would someone who's worked and saved for 40 years do that, right? And so we had a previous podcast where we talked about measuring what you do equals success or increases the likelihood of success. And so that's the first thing I think that people should be doing if they're not, is measuring their market risk and how that fits their affinity for risk. So the old rule of thumb is a rule of 100. So I'll turn 60 in October. So if I take the number 100, I subtract my age, whatever your age is, then the number left over, 40, generally speaking, is the most that I should have in the markets at risk. Now, there's intangibles that play into that. If it's 40% of 100,000, it's a lot different than if it's 40% of, 10 million.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And so there is some intangibles that come into play there, but that's just a general rule of thumb. And then we use a software that's a risk management software that's been around for ages. It used to be known as Riskalyze. They recently changed their name to Nitrogen. That's a long story. But anyway, a lot of people upset that they changed their name. But anyway, it's a great, great company, and they have a great system that goes about analyzing folks' risk and how that measures up with what they're comfortable with losing or not losing. And that's another good measuring stick. So there's a couple of different ones, and there's many more, but at the end of the day, folks really need to have someone helping them determine what risk they're comfortable with taking and making sure that their portfolio matches that. And as a result of that, is balanced, right?
Yeah. And I can't imagine that's a fun question to ask people. How much are you comfortable losing? Right? It can't be an easy question to ask folks.
Well, it's really not. And what's really interesting about it is when you ask that question, you get all sorts of different types of responses. Generally speaking, my experience is men are willing to take more risk than women. But, again, that's depends on the couple. But usually people, when they go through that process, they think they're more willing to take risks than they are when they have to start putting it into dollars that they're willing to lose, say, in a 6-month period.
Yeah,
for sure. So that's the first of 3 areas. The second area that I believe is important in balance is having balance of both liquidity and or income. And so there's a lot of different ways to drive income in retirement. There's Social Security. Some folks out there still have pensions. There's guaranteed income sources. But the question really becomes, no matter what your income is, there's rental income, doesn't matter what your income is. The question is, do you have an income distribution plan? So, and then from that plan, you have to ask the question, okay, if I have to start drawing down against my assets, which account do I take from first? And most people just kind of pick the largest balance if they're doing it on their own. But that's definitely not necessarily the best way to go about it if that is a taxable account and it's going to have a negative effect on so many other things. So things like taxes, things like impacting your Social Security, causing your Social Security to be partially or fully taxed, Medicare and increasing your Medicare surcharges, and so on.
Yeah.
Right?
John, I agree 100%. This is, again, not to seem self-serving for this purpose, but this is why we give your contact information at the end of the show. We don't know what we don't know. And when we just make decisions based on what we think possibly could maybe be right, we could possibly maybe be very, very wrong. So getting that advice, getting that guidance, I think is incredibly smart idea to do and needed. So yeah, again, we will be giving your contact information at the end of the show.
Okay. Well, great. Well, yeah, and I'll just give an example. And I could give so many examples.
Yeah.
But I want to give an example as it relates to someone's pension. And so every single month we have some couple come through our doors, and they are about to retire, and they have a pension, and that pension has options, right? Yes. One of those options, I had one in just last week, and he has the option of taking a lump sum from his company, which is Encore, or he has the option of taking it in a monthly income stream for the rest of his life, either single life, meaning if he dies, then that pension is gone. If he dies a month into retirement, that pension is gone, all 200 and 300,000 or whatever the amount is, right? If he takes joint income, then if he dies, his wife will continue to collect that income stream as well. So the question he had, it was, hey, should I take the lump sum or should I take the monthly income, right? And the answer to that is never just automatic, because it depends on so many other different factors.
Exactly.
Right. And so this is why when we say you need an income distribution plan, then you really have to consider all the different pieces that you have to do an analysis on, and how making one decision is going to positively or negatively impact a different decision. And so if you don't have an income distribution plan where you know specifically where your income is going to come from in year 1 of retirement and year 25 of retirement and everything in between, then you need to get with somebody that's going to help you deliver one, because it typically is going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars in doing so.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was early May. I'm pretty sure it was early May. Did you have Jeremy Pillow on the show?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you guys talked about Social Security. There's a lot of information. So go back and listen to that audience in there. But that's what this reminds me of, is that there's so many different ways to take Social Security. You need to do it the right way. And if somebody has a pension and they have Social Security, and maybe their spouse has a 401k, and maybe they have an individual IRA that they've created, and then they have savings, and maybe they, it's always maybe, right? There's always something else that they could possibly have. All those things work together differently, right? Because my father-in-law, for instance, he worked for the Border Patrol for 31 years. He doesn't have Social Security because they didn't put into Social Security because they had a pension plan. Mm-hmm. Right. So because it was a government plan, it's different for him than it is somebody who maybe was in a company who also has a pension or retirement plan and then also can draw Social Security. So you really, really need to know the rules. And I hate to call it a game, John, but it feels like that sometimes.
It is. Yeah.
Right. You got to know all the rules. And then when you bring in another component like Social Security or an inheritance, or an inherited IRA, which we know the rules to that game change a lot.
It is. It's different as well. It's hard to keep up with it all.
Yeah, and so that's to me the most important thing of what you do is that you have your finger on the pulse of the different things that are going on. That's why you decided, I don't know, a year ago to start doing a market recap and chat directly to the listener about kind of what was going on at that moment, because everything changes. And so if you're not bringing all the pieces of this puzzle to the table to put them together with somebody who knows what they're doing, you're not going to end up with the picture on the box.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's an example. In 2019, the Secure Act came into play, and that was huge because it dramatically changed. It's probably one of the most historical changes ever in terms of tax distribution from one generation to the next. And a lot of people, unfortunately, don't know what happened, and they need to get with somebody that can explain it. But the reason I make that point is because now in distributing those assets over 10 years instead of a lifetime, it's going to dramatically change the distribution of that. And so again, that should be and would be part of an income distribution plan, just as Social Security would, just as pension would, and so many different pieces. And so if you were to ask me, well, what's the best balanced income distribution plan? And the answer is the same as always is, Eric. It depends, right? It depends on you and your situation. But yes, if you don't have one that you are comfortable with, that's going to cover all the different pieces of your life, then now's the time to start, for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about today before we do give that contact information out?
There is. Last piece of the balance, the three buckets, the third of those, you could argue is the most important one, and that is balance in tax risk. And so my order of money of most importance to least important of having when you retire is tax-free accounts, which is a pretty small bucket. I would say, you ever see those little red mini solo cups?
Yes.
That represents about how much people have in Roth IRAs these days, which are tax-free vehicles, right? And then the regular red solo cup, a little bit bigger, then I would call that taxable accounts, meaning they're only going to be paying taxes on the growth of that asset, not the original amount they started with. And then if you gave me a 5-gallon red bucket, that would represent the tax deferred amount of assets that folks have. In fact, 91 retirees today, on average, 91% of their assets are in that tax deferred bucket. That's what we see day in, day out. We see them 100%. We see 98. We see 93. We see 78. Everything in between. But that's where the vast majority of the money is. So when I'm teaching at a class, and let's say it's 40 people, and I say, so let's just say that there is $50 million in assets in this room. So if you just stop to think about it, that means 45 million of that 50 million in this room has never been taxed.
Yeah.
And it just really comes to, make the point. But the point again is that you need to have somebody you sit down with that's measuring your tax risk in a specific measurement, meaning what amount of tax liability do you have that you're going to be paying over your lifetime when those assets are distributed, whether you distribute it while you're alive or after you're gone or both. Somebody should be measuring that for you, because you can't fix the problem if you don't know you have one, right? And so that's what we do with folks. We sit down and measure each one of all of these individual buckets. And in most cases, of course, that's why they're coming to us. There's a lack of balance, and they're top heavy in one, if not more areas. And so we don't fix it overnight, but over a period of usually 6 to 8 years, we start migrating from one bucket over to the other bucket, especially in the areas of taxes. And before you know it, that we regain balance and, don't have to worry about the surprises that you wake up to, like, a pond in your living room.
I like how you brought it full circle.
Well, I don't, I ended the podcast with that, and it began it with it and ended it with it. So I'm not sure why I did that, but there you go.
Well, I appreciate it, because into everyone's life, a little rain must fall, I think is the old saying. It sounds like you had a lot more than you intended for.
Well, as they say that, hey, they say that if you think your life is tough, just look around. Somebody else has got it tougher, right?
Yeah.
And this morning absolutely.
I do. Yeah, absolutely. It's your turn. All right, my friend. I appreciate it. Let's give them that contact information so people can reach out to you.
Oh, without a doubt. It's our main office line is 817-225-6260. Someone's always answering the phone, so give us a call.
Fantastic. John, always a pleasure. Good luck with the swimming pool.
Thank you, sir. We'll take care of it, and you have a great day too.
All right. Thank you. And our last thank you, of course, is for you, the listening audience. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when John comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it really easy to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at the Secrets of the Wealthy, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Secrets of the Wealthy podcast with John Mintz. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of John Mintz. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.